Welcome back. Well, Christmas is a time for fun and festivity. There's family, food, music and dance, and what better way to add to the jolly vibe than with a glass or two or even three of wine. So what constitutes a fine wine? Is it the price, the brand name or the age? Well, tonight we have in studio Lloyd Juicer, head sommelier of the Saxon Hotel in Johannesburg. Thanks so much for your time, Lloyd. We appreciate it. And then, of course, we have Jeffrey Stevens, our sports anchor / amateur wine drinker. He's here to help us out taste these wines. Let's talk about the Christmas lunch table, first of all. Yeah. How do we actually pair things up when it gets to that? Because it's all rich food, mostly. Rich.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So you need a variety of wines. Firstly, you're gonna need some whites, and you're also gonna need some reds. You're gonna need some sparkling wine as well. If you have access to champagne, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have certain wines here that we're supposed to test, if possible. And then we just want to talk about the taste and the acquired taste of wine, which is why we have Jeffrey here, because he's not a wine drinker, but he's going to a Christmas lunch. There will be wine on the table.
Absolutely.
He needs to know how to get that palate ready when he goes into it.
I think a lot of people are intimidated with wine. I think you just need to be open-minded. Baby steps. Always start with what you like. Never go with what the crowd is going for. You know, you need to drink according to your own pace. So be open-minded, take baby steps, and at some point you realize that you can be comfortable with a certain style. You don't have to like everything. I personally have my own preferences, so you just have to be open-minded.
But isn't that the thing? Everybody has their own unique taste and preference, and it depends on the occasion, the meal, and that individual sitting at the table. He or she might want a peachy or a woody or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. With certain dishes that are quite rich, I find myself more inclined to go for wooded wines. You know, there might be whites, maybe reds, but with that kind of richness, you need a wine that is also quite full-bodied and has a certain amount of richness in it. So if you bring something that is maybe only tank fermented, it's going to fall flat. It's not going to stand up to the kind of flavors that you have on the menu. Yeah. So you need to know what to bring to the party, and that's why having a fair amount of food and wine pairing is essential.
What do you bring to the party, though? How do you establish what's a good wine to take? Because, I mean, which is a wine that could go with almost anything on the table?
In a lot of instances, I always come up with versatile wines, and there are two great varieties that I find to fit quite a broad spectrum. One of them is Chardonnay, which is on the white side, and then the other one is Pinot Noir, which is quite medium-bodied. It can be heavy depending on the extraction and where it's being made, but I always find them to be extremely versatile with a number of different food textures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the key thing, the difference between sparkling wine and a champagne.
Yeah.
I mean, connoisseurs would know the difference, but in South Africa, you hear people saying, I'm having champagne, but meanwhile, you're actually having sparkling wine.
There's a wild misconception. I mean, it's not only unique to South Africa. If you travel around the world, a lot of people still call sparkling wine champagne. But champagne is made uniquely in France, in the Champagne region. So it's a protected designation, according to the European Union. In South Africa, we make a sparkling wine called Method Cape Classic. Yeah, we are not allowed to call it champagne, obviously, because we are not making it in the Champagne region. So if you're drinking anything else that's being made outside of the Champagne region, you have no right to call it champagne.
But is there a difference in how it's made, which is why it's called champagne or sparkling wine, or is it just because of a copyright issue kind of a...
There's a copyright issue, protected designation. A lot of them are made almost in a similar style. There are many different styles of sparkling wine. There's Method Chamat, there's Method Champenois, there's also Method Transversal. These are all the different styles of sparkling wine production techniques that are used. As long as it's made in a different area, remember all these methods that I spoke about, they are still employed in champagne, and their eventual product is called champagne. But you should call your sparkling wine what it is known as in the country of origin. For instance, in Spain they call it cava, and in certain parts of the world they also call it Prosecco. In South Africa we have a right to call it Method Cape Classic.
So do we have a corkscrew? Are we tasting these?
Yeah, if we've got a minute, I think I'll
talk us through while you open them.
Just quickly, I noticed the year that this was released.
Absolutely.
For us novices, that obviously is a good few years ago. What happens as the aging process happens?
Okay, so you know the most interesting thing about white wine is that it gains color as it ages, whereas red wines lose color as it ages. I brought you two wines here. One is a Ataraxia Chardonnay. This is one of my personal favorites from my cellar. This is a 2009 vintage, and I've also brought Newton Johnson Family Vineyards, which is a single vineyard produced by the Newton Johnson family, and it's a 2010 vintage. The reason being, aged wine has some of these secondary and tertiary flavors, which I find absolutely remarkable. They are to die for. You cannot replace these flavors mechanically or by doing anything to the wine. I mean, only time can grant you these kind of flavors. So that's why I brought these particular vintages.
Can a wine be too old? Is that even a possibility?
Absolutely. Wine can be too old. If you're looking at me right now, I'm using a prong to open up this wine because I don't want to tamper with the mechanical integrity of the cup. There we go. There we go. Very carefully. Wow. We're going to open that up.
Wow.
And we're going to open this particular Chardonnay and we're going to try it. The first thing, obviously, is to check if the wine is good and clean. Absolutely divine.
Yeah? How do you know that, though?
All right, you always have to check for faults in a wine. I mean, there are a number of times when a wine is taken to a table and people take a whiff or take a taste of it.
It smells
and you see all these kind of
divine.
different things, but for me, it's always checking for faults. And some of the faults that you look for is oxidation, being corked, you know, the presence of TNI, which is a chemical compound found in a wine. So that always creates an unpleasant flavor profile on the palate, or even when you taste that with food. So you need to be extra careful. So you always check for this kind of fault. For me, this is the quintessential expression of a Chardonnay. Full, rich, buttery, but very minerally driven, which is what I like. That's for you.
What would be the perfect temperature to drink a Chardonnay?
Chardonnay, for me, always best expresses itself. Not too chilled. You don't, remember not to serve it at blizzard temperatures, but anything from 8 to 11 degrees.
Now, people put ice in their wine. How do you feel about that?
I'm glad you brought that up, eh? It's a pandemic, in my opinion.
A pandemic?
Yeah. No, seriously. If ever you want to ruin a good glass of wine, add ice to it. You know, I think it's a South African thing. I've traveled around the world.
Chilling the wine, for example?
Oh, no, chilling is fine, but adding ice to it, you're competing with the ice melting in the glass. You know, so you're diluting the wine as it should be. You're almost like interfering with the product. So you shouldn't do that. Yeah. Stay away from that. It's not whiskey.
It isn't. Okay, let's taste this.
Have a crack at that.
What are we doing with the tasting process, please?
So the first thing you should do, obviously, is to take a whiff on the nose and then play around with the wine in your palate and tell me what you taste.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. The first thing to look out for is fruit. Are you picking any fruit? Remember, try not to think of something that you read on Google.
Oof, I'm not good with picking out flavors, though. I'm very bad at that. It tastes good. I love Chardonnay.
Yeah. Well, with this one being an aged Chardonnay, you're not going to pick up a lot of fruit, but you're going to pick up some secondary and tertiary flavors. You're going to pick up something like a cheese rindy characteristic, almost something like a yogurt flavor profile. That's what I would pick up.
Amazing that he can pick that up and describe it as such. And I'm just enjoying the taste.
So tell us, what's the experience, though? Because you're not a fan of wine, are you? I mean, that's why we have you here, to see if you can start liking something at the first taste, or whether it'll take a couple of times.
It's pretty amazing. Just to be a little bit more knowledgeable about exactly what the things are that you should be looking out for when going down the aisle. This one or that one, it's. I could have this on a Friday evening, sundowner, chill, with a little crackling in the back of the fireplace and that kind of thing.
And it brings it back to those things I was talking about. You need a wine that is very versatile. You know, if you're going to go to a dinner party and you don't even know what to take with you, maybe you just want something to drink by the poolside. This is a perfect wine for that. Even if you're more on the red side, because certain people despise Chardonnays. You hear certain phrases being thrown around like anything but Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Then you can maybe opt for a different style altogether.
Wine snobs.
I wouldn't go as snobs. Maybe I started off as one, but I think over the years I've just become comfortable with my own preferences. The other style I like a lot, which you can have without any food, is Pinot Noir. There we go. Some of the greatest literary works out there with regards to wine are based on this particular grape variety. Hard to master, prone to mutation in the vineyard. But when it rewards you like it does, when it rewards you like this, you've got an absolute gem of a wine.
Oh, it is lovely. It's not too dry.
Not too dry.
Very smooth in the palate.
Absolutely. And you can have this without any food. That's the
Yeah.
important thing about it.
Well, you say without any food. So are there specific wines that you mainly have with food? Is it paired up with food, developed for that? Or?
Well, there are no wines that are made or produced specifically for certain dishes. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, it all depends on how much time you have on your hands. Certain wines you buy to keep away for years. You know, if you buy a full-bodied red wine, let's say a 2016, 2017 vintage, there's no point opening it tomorrow or the day after Christmas. You know, you need to hold on to that, maybe celebrate in perfect conditions for 10 to maybe 20 years. By the time you open it, tannins will be tamed. You know, it's no longer this beast, this ravaging bull, you know. I mean, it's almost like a pleasant antidote.
Continuing eradicating misconceptions about wine, the fuller-bodied wine, would that have the capability to make you a little bit more tipsy, a little bit sooner?
Highly tannic wines, you know, they usually originate from warmish environments, and they have a habit of peaking in terms of their alcoholic content, you know. So there is a likelihood that you're going to get tipsy a lot quicker with a full-bodied red compared
Wow,
to
didn't
a
know
light-bodied
that.
red.
Didn't know that.
Absolutely.
Neither did I. So tell us, how do you actually become a sommelier? Because, I mean, your palate has to be impeccable, firstly, right? Apart from your knowledge of wine.
Yeah.
We're relying on your taste buds here.
Well, the thing is, I think anybody can become a sommelier. I think you just have to enjoy the trade.
You have the best job in the world.
Well, you could say that, you know. It could be a long day at the office and I'm just checking wines. But essentially anybody can become a sommelier. But the only trick is, or the only secret is to read a lot. Because wine laws are constantly changing. There is the effect of the global climatic change. And so certain regions that traditionally used to make some exciting wines are no longer doing that. And there are also these new areas that are starting to pop up on the winemaking scene. So you always need to be abreast with that kind of information. You know, when you deal with a diverse clientele, like in my case, you need to know what everybody drinks in their countries of origin so that you can always recommend something appropriate.
Lloyd, just for my own curiosity, as I have another sip,
Yes,
comparatively speaking, is South African vineyard still right up there compared to the rest of the world?
I think there used to be a time when we were playing catch-up, you know? And there used to be a time when we were saying, okay, we're almost at the corner. We were talking about turning the corner at some stage. I am proud to say I think we have arrived at the corner.
Excellent.
We're making some really outstanding wines.
I think we're up there in the world. I mean, well, I guess it's my patriotism that makes me say that. But I believe, I lived in New York for 2 years, in London as well, and I looked for South African wine, even though I was in those countries.
The wine scene
I really
there
liked
is
it.
really advanced.
So without turkey, which one are we drinking?
So, I shouldn't have shown you the labels, you know. Maybe you could have told me blind. So we've got Ataraxia Chardonnay. Both of these ones are made in the Himalayan area, close to the coastal town of Amanus. So this is made by Kevin Grant, and it's a 2009 Ataraxia Chardonnay. And we've got the Newton Johnson Family Vineyards 2010 Pinot Noir, also from the Himalayan.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Lloyd. We appreciate it. And, of course, a disclaimer to everyone is that you should not be drinking and driving.
Don't drink and drive.
To get those, e-hailing services.
I need everybody safe this festive, man.
Thanks so much for this. We appreciate it. I'm going to stop right now, Jeff, because
I'll have this last sip.
I'm reading headlines soon. Cheers.
Very good. Cheers, cheers.
Enjoy the rest
This
of it.
is good. All right. Thanks so much, Lloyd. That was Lloyd Juice, head sommelier at the Saxon Hotel.